Okay, YouTube, Salt Princess here, and today I'd like to introduce you to my new Scourge Arrow Dexterity Stacking Raider. Check it out. We have 937 Dexterity. Really cool. And as I said, Scourge Arrow with a pretty high base damage. I'd like to start off this video by stating that this character is a very expensive character to create. We are approaching week 9, 10 of the league. The league is coming to a close. I think there are plenty of people who are interested in ending their time in the league, and therefore I've decided to spend a pretty enormous chunk of my currency that I've been saving up for, well, the entire league. That being said, I want to show you, I guess, the bow in question. The reason that we're stacking so much dexterity, which you probably are already aware of, is there's a new shaper modifier on bow weapons above a certain item level. I believe it's above item level 85, that says plus some damage, cold damage specifically, per 10 dexterity. When you scale up to as high of a number as I have, that comes out to somewhere in the neighborhood of like 500-ish base cold damage on your weapon alone. And obviously that is scaled by all of the percent cold damage modifiers that you can find anywhere on the tree or anywhere else on your gear, such as on the taming with all of these increased elemental damage modifiers that exist on this ring. That being said, the number, the damage that you're capable of dealing with this particular type of damage scaling is absolutely fucking ridiculous, and I'm having a really good time with it. That being said, I'd like to show you, first and foremost, the passive tree and these sort of more expensive components of this particular build, and how I'm able to get so much dexterity. So what you're looking at here is honestly a pretty conventional raider tree that is dipping into cold conversion and scaling up cold damage and penetration with attacks. This is kind of a pretty common tree. I've done approximately this tree on most of my cold conversion Scourge Arrow characters. I've done a Scourge Arrow character like this every single league since I started playing, except for the first one, because I didn't know how to play the game back then. However, this is just something that I really enjoy playing, and there's a whole bunch of new mechanisms for scaling this damage absolutely out of control. I'm actually working on one right now in the form of these prophecies. A master seeks help, Yun. We're trying to get Ashling into research so that we can drop hopefully 2 really synergistic veiled modifiers onto our bow. Hopefully. And then at that point I'll slam it because I'll only have 5 mods. I'm not interested in multi-modding this thing because, like, it's only 2 modifiers. It seems like a waste to me. And I definitely don't want to risk annulling off the... I would rather risk a bad slam than risk annulling off any of my, like, hard stuck natural affixes on this thing. I got really lucky crafting this bow. The critical strike multiplier is perfectly rolled. The damage penetrates is very rare and also perfectly rolled. It doesn't get much better than that on a natural Og Regal. I'm very, very happy with this. I'm very, very lucky to have gotten this. And so I'm going to spend the rest of the league farming research until I get really good veiled modifiers on this. So anyway, back to the passive tree. What we're utilizing to get the most out of our dexterity is a Brutal Restraint Timeless Jewel. This one is number 4,997. I point out the number because I don't know if there are better ones for this kind of thing, but this particular jewel has 3 5% increased dexterity nodes. 1 here on Silent Steps, and then 2 more, strangely, on our bow wheel, which obviously as a bow character, we're gonna take. So they're in very, very convenient locations. There's, like, literally no downside to using this jewel for me. I would have taken literally all of these nodes except these. So at the cost of 3 points, I get a pretty sick jewel. This jewel also provides me with attack and cast speed in 2 separate locations, as well as more dexterity, and I'll be getting these nodes as well, even more dexterity. Flat dexterity, a little different, a little less exciting than the percent dexterity. At this point, 5% dexterity is somewhere in the neighborhood of like 45 dexterity to me, so those I prioritized. And then I also got movement speed and critical strike chance, which is great because the Harbinger bow that I'm utilizing has the highest base crit out of all the bows. So that's pretty awesome. I want to take a second to talk about this Lionized Fall. This jewel is like so much better than I anticipated. This is the first time I've ever used one of these. It's converting all of these nodes that are in this circle on the claw wheel into bow nodes, which is super cool because now I don't have to take a mana leech node down here. I can just simply take this and I get so much more, and I'm solving my mana problems just by taking this node. It's a substantially more efficient use of my points. That being said, the projectile damage kind of sucks, but all of this stuff is so much more worth it. We're getting critical strike multiplier, and chance to blind. It's crazy. It's super good. And then we also have a Watcher's Eye. Basically, this is a 1 property Watcher's Eye in reality. It just has some cold scaling, because, like, that's good. Then beyond that, we're focusing on critical strikes and critical strike multiplier, converting the remainder of our physical damage to cold damage, and then scaling up more cold damage. The strength nodes that I'm wasting points on over here are important for my cast when damage taken steel skin setup. I wanted to get as much of this as possible because, as you can see over here, my life pool is laughable. It's very bad, very, very low, very dangerous. Therefore, I wanted to have basically as much chance to dodge and evasion as humanly possible, as well as, I don't know, just like the best damage. This is very much a like, don't get hit things before you're hit kind of build. The beautiful thing about that is I actually have an enormous chance to freeze, and I do so much cold damage that even before I added the chance to freeze modifier on this bow, we were already off-screen freezing the overwhelming majority of things that were in maps, including bosses. Basically everything except Uber Elder. Like I said, we're using Scourge Arrow, and we're scaling up as much cold damage as humanly possible, so we're also utilizing elemental damage with attacks. Ice Bite support to benefit from all of our frenzy charges. As a raider, we have 6. We get a bonus one over here. And then we're taking all of the frenzy charges that we can actually reach on the tree, giving us a total of 6, which is kind of nice. Then we're also taking hypothermia support. This helps for our elemental ailments, and it gives us more cold damage, which is very nice. Added cold damage support because, duh, cold damage. And then Mirage Archer, because it's amazing. I have something a little bit special in this build. I chaos spammed gloves to have socketed gems are supported by level 20 slower projectile, which is something that you want on your barrage setup anyways. So I put my barrage setup in a pseudo 5 link in my gloves, alongside elemental damage with attacks, vicious projectiles to scale up that base physical damage because our barrage is not fully converted, and then I also have chain support. This somehow seems to make the skill do substantially more damage. I don't really understand how it works when it says deals less damage per hit, but it also does way more damage. It's silly. I don't understand the interaction. It seems to be very effective. We have all of our movement skills in our helm, including a Vol Grace. This adds a little bit more to our evasiveness, which is very, very helpful in terms of staying alive. And this is achieved through an Enlightened support in our body armor, which is fucking ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. And we're using Herald of Ice, Hatred, Clarity, because of the minus mana cost to skills while affected by Clarity. Our Clarity is only level 1, so it's very inexpensive to run, and we still get the full benefit of the Watcher's Eye from that. And then we also have Precision. This is giving us a ton of critical strike, as well as enough accuracy to give us a 100% chance to hit even the evasive monsters, which is very nice. Then we're running a perfectly rolled Cyclopean coil. This gives us 15% increased attributes, as well as a bunch of other excellent things. I could really stand to lose like just a couple points of intelligence so that I can't be frozen. That would be really nice too. Or shocked or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I could mess around with my stats just a little bit more to get more out of this. And then I have a couple multi-modded items that are really nice. I got super lucky making this agate amulet. Obviously, the perfectly rolled dexterity stat into 1% increased damage per 15 dexterity is insane. I did the math on this when I tried to make this video last night and failed. It gives us somewhere in the neighborhood of 67% increased damage, which is pretty good. We're also running an Assassin's Mark ring. At this point, I'm not even positive if this is better to have than a second taming, but I spent so much time trying to craft this thing, and I got so lucky on my annuls because I didn't imprint it that at this point I'm just going to use it just because I felt really lucky. And then the rest of our gear is just trying to fill out our resists and get as much life as possible, which honestly is not enough. It's just actually not enough. I also corrupted a Void Fletcher to have a little bit of extra increased elemental damage in the form of fire. Eventually, I plan on getting a Cinder Swallow, so that'll help us in terms of actually activating the Cinder Swallow and getting the most out of that flask. So that's just about enough in terms of how the build actually functions. I don't think I really forgot to say anything. Oh, the Ascendancy. So in terms of the Ascendancy wheel that I've chosen, you might say, hey, Salt Princess, wouldn't Avatar of the Veil and Quartz Infusion be better to take over Avatar of the Chase and Rapid Assault? And I would answer, maybe. Maybe it is. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that all of my damage comes from attacks. So it seems to me as though 20 plus 20 is 40. And so while I have Onslaught up, I get 40% increased damage to my attacks, which is the same number as the increased elemental damage that I would get from Avatar of the Veil, but the attack damage scaling with the Onslaught modifiers actually gets applied fully to my barrage as well, whereas if I were taking Avatar of the Veil and Quartz Infusion, I would not get the full benefit of those on my barrage, which is my single target damage, which in my opinion is the more important of the two, because I like to kill bosses. There could be an argument made that this could make me tankier and even more evasive, and you'd probably be right, but realistically speaking, I spent a pretty penny on my MTX, and I'd actually like to see it, so I'm sticking with what I have. That being said, I'm going to run a little map for you guys. Hopefully I'll proc a syndicate. If not, honestly, that'll probably be better for everybody involved, because the map will go quicker, and I've been pretty bad about making short videos lately. But the reason that I wanted to do this as a raider as opposed to any other Ascendancy is, one, it's something that's familiar to me. Two, it's in a very convenient location for how we're building this character. And three, the borderline permanent Onslaught and very easily accessible Frenzy charges actually make this very, very incredibly slow bow with literally no attack speed modifiers on the bow naturally, quite a bit faster. And so it just kind of feels smoother. I gotta say, in terms of my Scourge Arrow characters, this is probably the smoothest and most enjoyable Scourge Arrow build I've made to date. The cool thing about this is, so it takes, let's see, about 2 seconds, I don't know, what feels like 2 seconds to fully stack up all 5 charges of our Scourge Arrow, but with the way that Scourge Arrow actually works in conjunction with Mirage Archer, it's perfectly feasible to just tap it and proc your Mirage Archer and then just continue running and let your Mirage Archer kill the whole game for you. So your downtime in terms of actually channeling doesn't have to be that high. Of course, if you're facing a boss or something like that, you're going to want to try and find those openings to fully charge and in my opinion, fully charging your attack while the Mirage Archer is fully charging their attack is kind of like doubling your damage for at least that one attack. That's kind of a stretch, but not entirely inaccurate. I will say this build is so noisy in terms of the heralds and all the shit that's going on that it can sometimes be hard to hear things like volatile dead spawning in these kinds of events right here. So things like these lightning mirages are fucking terrifying. So you have to be careful. And I apologize for those of you who don't like screen shake. I played a great many hours of Path of Exile with screen shake off, and when I finally turned it on just to see what it does, I was delighted to find out that the screen shake is your indicator for your critical strikes. The screen doesn't shake when you don't crit, and it shakes quite a bit when you do. And that being said, it makes me feel good. It's like a visual feedback that tells me what is going on, and I really like it. And if you don't, I apologize. I'm keeping it. So while we're finishing off this map, I would also like to take a second to say that yesterday I tried to hop on Twitch for the first time in a long time. I've been wanting to stream for honestly a couple of years now, and I haven't had the right environment or sufficient, well, realistically speaking, I just haven't had the greatest environment to stream. And I don't know how many of you have watched more than one of my YouTube videos, but I live in an area right now that can be very noisy in terms of what's going on in the streets, and every once in a while that actually bleeds into the microphone, and y'all get a taste of what it's like to live with me, or at least where I live, and it can be a little frustrating. So I'm still struggling with actually feeling good about streaming, but what I'm trying to say is my test stream actually went off without a hitch yesterday, and I actually had people show up, which was kind of nice. It wasn't very many, but it felt good to have people to talk to while I was playing, so I found it quite enjoyable, and I would like to continue doing it. So, I still have some things to work out, such as, you know, like follower notifications and stuff like that, screen layout. When I make these YouTube videos for you, I actually play the game in windowed mode so that I can check out, so that I can make my aspect ratio something that's YouTube friendly, because I have a cute dog style ultra wide 36-inch monitor that is approximately that big. It's huge. So that being said, it would be very stretched if I were to actually use my native resolution and submit that to YouTube. It would look a little silly for you guys. However, I think YouTube is a nicer format where I can, like cute dog, incorporate Twitch chat onto my screen, which I think would be a fun thing for everybody to enjoy. So, you know, just gotta work those kinds of things out. But anyway, I think that was a pretty good showcase of what this build is capable of doing. I did an Uber Elder attempt a couple days ago, and it was honestly hilarious. It was super duper good. But I was very, very tired, and like my brain was just blessings. And so like, although the attempt was good and although the build looked great while I was performing the encounter, me as a human being, wow, that part wasn't working out. So I'm not gonna upload that. It exists and it's still on my computer, but it's for me. So I'd like to end this video by saying, please stop price fixing the Master Seeks Help Yun prophecies to such an enormously high price tag. I would really benefit greatly if I could actually acquire some of those, but I'm not paying you multiple divine orbs per. That's ridiculous, and you're mean. So I will just take my time and get my Juns on the dailies. So price fixers be damned, I refuse to participate in that. Yun should never be way more expensive than Nico. That's silly. On a final note, I'd like to thank everybody who's been sticking around with me and actually watching the videos. I've been looking at my analytics on my YouTube, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a very scary and treacherous thing to look at. However, I seem to be growing, and I seem to be catching on, and I really appreciate that. It's encouraging. So thank you very much. I'd like to end the video now, I guess. Oh my god, that sounds so dumb. Thank you guys very much for being here. Take care of one another. If you get the opportunity to do something nice for somebody, life can be pretty hard, and we all need a little bit of help sometimes. So take care of each other. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again next time. Have a lovely evening. Goodbye.